I'm a father. Okay.
Yeah. Are you comfortable?
I am.
Are you a little nervous?
Slightly, but I'll be okay.
You sure?
I've felt nervous before, and I've always survived.
Well, yes, you're not going to die on the podcast
So
now.
I think we should be fine.
I love that that's your bar. Like, I know I won't die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, let's do a quick drink. I want to make sure my mic is set up perfectly. What do you want to drink to? What do you want to toast to?
Abundance and growth.
That's on theme.
It's really the theme.
I love that because you just want to ask people to toast their nervous. Let's toast to abundance and growth. Salud, I whites.
Salud.
Do not need 7 years bad sex. There we go. Let's take a little sip. This kombucha. Ooh.
It's like a hug on the inside.
Yeah.
It's like recovery elixir.
Now we've been friends so long, you're still on my lines. By the way, we do sound like, we say a lot of things in common now because of all the time we spent together. I love that. Mel, this is your first time on the podcast ever?
Ever. On any podcast ever in life.
I love being people's first.
You've done that. You've been my first many times.
Well, that's how rumors get started. Clarify.
Well.
Experiences. Platonic friendship experiences. For those of you who are wondering who this voice is that you are hearing, it is my friend, my little sis, and my last roommate ever before I decided I couldn't do it anymore, Melody Douglas. Clap for yourself, Mel. Woo! Mel's in town I have to be really honest, Mel is in town for our birthdays. Her birthday is the 19th. Mine is the 24th. Just to be transparent, we are taping this on the 25th of April. So it is about 18 minutes since a week of me celebrating my birthday has ended.
And our last hangover.
Yeah, so Mel, the whole point of this episode was that I wanted somebody who's known me for a long time to be there for my birthday episode. Because number one, who else better to recap the shenanigans that we've been in. It's so funny. I shout out to our friend Elise. Elise was like, "You still celebrating your birthday?" And I was like, "Elise, today is my actual birthday. Like, everything previous was a warm up." Because I've never been one of those people who does like, "Oh, a month of my birthday." I've barely gone through the day of my birthday, and then I've slunken off and done something else. And so for me to have a full week of celebration and for you to be here for the entire time, the first thing I want to ask you ready?
I think so. Let's do it.
Girl, don't be nervous. It's just me. We kiki all the time. I need y'all to know. You see how Mel's trying to act all quiet and shit? For the last 3 hours, me, her, and Bridget's in town, have been in the living room watching Netflix and kikiing and smoking weed and talking. So I want you to know that this is no different than that.
Even better than that, this is the same thing we've been doing since I was your roommate. Like, these are those conversations.
Well, Mel, first of all, tell them how we met, Mel. Tell them how we met.
I know. I do like my version of the story better.
No, hit it. Tell your version of the story.
I was 18 and a half, and I just moved to D.C.
18 and a half?
I was 18 and a half. It was January.
Yikes.
And I was, just moving to D.C. from Iowa, so my first Google search were, where are the bitches? I was looking for the black lesbian center
For
of
those
DC.
of you who are wondering, do you identify as bisexual, pansexual?
Bisexual.
Mel is bisexual, and this was during her heavy gay days in Chocolate City. For those of you who've been to DC, you understand just how gay it gets out there.
18 and a half.
And at 18 and a half, decided to Google, where are the bitches? And she claims that when she Googled where are the bitches, what happened?
I found that Blue Toulousema was at all the events, connected to all the people, connected to the promoters, to whoever. So
my full government name, though, you had to say?
That's what it was.
So you Googled where are the bitches and you found, and
then I found you and I friended you. And I was like, feeling, liking, fanning on whatever you were posting at the time on Facebook. This was like early Facebook days. This is like pre anything else as far as I'm concerned, because we were just coming out of MySpace and Black Planet. And
this was like 2005, 6?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I think I had your Black Planet page. I'm
Jesus
not sure.
Christ. Okay. So Mel at 18 and a half Googled where's the bitches, somehow figured out that I was the epicenter
the bitches. She
of
was
said
the
bitches. You guys, by the way, you have to understand how shocked I was when I heard this story. And then I get a DM from a complete stranger saying, "Hey, I really enjoy your work. I'm throwing a vegan Thanksgiving. I don't know if you wanted to come." And at the time, I was dating someone I think who was vegan. So I don't know if you had seen that and knew that was the entry point. You might have.
I knew that was going to collect the black lesbians. That's kind of like the catnip you lay out.
Yeah.
And they all come to you. So vegan Thanksgiving.
And I was like, actually, that might could work. And then the person I was talking to ended up being an asshole. And I was like, I'm not going to that fucking vegan Thanksgiving by myself. And I stayed home and ate pork. And then a couple more years go by. And then what happened then? It was a couple of years that went by and...
Couple of years go by. At this point, we had a mutual friend who had a house, and I needed a place to stay.
Shout out to Jasmine. So those of you who have been following me for a while know Blue Centric actually started off as a production company. I ran a production company in DC for 5 years, and I've had like about 60 actors and crew members working for me at the time. It felt like half of Howard was at my house for rehearsals, and Jasmine was a PA. She joined it because she said she wanted community. And then when I lost my house, that house that everybody had been staying at for years, not a single person was willing to let me sleep on their couch except for my PA, Jasmine. And that was actually probably one of the most soul-crushing but illuminating things that's ever happened to me, because it's like, I've been feeding the community for a decade. I finally am the one who needs help for once, and none of you would offer me a place to stay. Even though many of you had stayed at my home for, like, there are people who were religiously saying to me, hey, I heard you're the girl I can sleep on your couch if I'm going through something. So I was known as the person who would give folks a place to stay, and the only person who let me stay somewhere was my PA, who was in a 2-bedroom with her son, had a roommate, Mel, living downstairs. She literally gave up her bedroom and slept in her son's room to give me her bedroom so I could stay with her while I got back on my feet. And that's where I ran into Mel, who's like, hey, remember me? I'm the bitch from Vegan Thanksgiving.
Look at us all trying to work together and thrive and survive. We will be fine.
Yeah, and you actually ended up being my friends during like a really low point. I remember I was so broke at the time. I couldn't even afford a bus ride home. Mel would have to come pick me up at 2 a.m. from work, because I was working on an independent film at the time. And you guys know, filmmakers and people who run production companies who are self-funded, never doing that again. Every penny I had went into the production company, went into the actors, went to craft services. But when it was all done, I had an overnight job, I think, sitting at the front desk of a luxury building that my friend Lola was staying at. And Lola was like, Blue, you can edit your film and literally sit there and get paid $15-20 an hour to just sit and do what you can do at home anyways. And I was like, but girl, how am I gonna get home? All my money's going to the production company. And that's when Mel jumped in and said, hey, we're roommates, I'll come pick you up.
We're gonna make it together. That's what it was.
How does it feel all these years now to see that I'm no longer asking for rides to the bus and then taking car service everywhere,
you know what?
and living my soft life?
Yeah.
It must be so weird for you to see how different things are now.
It's not.
Really?
To be honest with you, this is something I always expected of you.
Oh.
It's not a surprise. It's kind of like before you see someone get all the way glammed up, and it's like, I see your face shape, I see the color of your eyes, I see where this is going.
Right.
I see what you're getting ready for. I see the outfit laid on the bed. I see where this is going. We're not there yet. And so for me and that, especially that period of time and kind of what we were all going through, we were all in a space of like, if we got one pizza, we're going to split it 3 ways. We're going to be together on this.
Yeah.
4 ways. And, shout out to Jazz and Dowdy again. I miss you guys.
Shout out to Jasmine. I've always said that the minute I become a millionaire, I'm cutting Jasmine a check. Because those 3 months that she gifted both of us, those 3 months that she gifted us ended up being the alley-oop for where my career is right now. And it's so wild how somebody doesn't realize that them being kind, just because they care about you, could be what you need to like get back on your feet. Now here's the thing though. You are in the DMV area still. You've been visiting me in LA.
I'm up the street from where we lived with Jazz. I'm in that same side of town.
You're across the street from where you and I lived alone together. And so my question is, what's the biggest difference you've noticed between the DMV area and LA? You can be honest. The show's called Humanized.
Jesus. In LA, people are not kind. They're nice though. They're present. They're like, how are you? But there's always, especially I guess if you're not, in the lane or a certain industry, you might just, you don't know what your ulterior motive is with this hello.
How's that different from politics of DC?
No, never mind. No,
shit.
Sorry, you're right. I guess it's a little, maybe because I speak DC language. I think I can see it in your eyes a little bit.
I think
whereas here, it's just like, oh, wow. Like, that wasn't my expectation of what this is.
I think the industry folks are not always kind, but I think LA natives are very kind.
There you go.
Perfect example. Your first night here, we had a new moon circle at my house. Brittany Hall, who was in a previous episode, she was here. Sarita, who was in a previous episode, was also there. A bunch of my friends who work in the industry were there, and they all welcomed you with open arms. But how did you feel being, because I remember that Jonica was there, and you were a big fan of Jonica back in the day. And because Jonica is known as Blue, and we're gonna have her come on the show. I've already told her she has to come on the show. Jonica was known back in the Blue, as Blue back in the day, and I remember I thought you had a little crush on her, and I know you're in a relationship now with a man. But when Jonica walked into my house, you were so attentive. What do you need? You want something to drink? Over here? Like, you were so attentive. I think that subconsciously, Leah, you better laugh at the camera. Put the camera on her to show that she's blushing.
Look, man, no, this is what happened. I was nice to everybody. I was
that was different, friend. I'm calling Kat.
To be the accommodator for everybody.
Your little dick jump when Jonica walked into the room.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I saw it in her eyes. I saw it in her eyes when she walked in. It was like, oh, there's some ice to break. Let me make sure she got a seat and a chair and a cup with something in it. Everything's fine. Everything was fine. Shout out to you, Jonica. Everything's, I promise.
I just think it's just so funny because your eyes lit up like, ooh. Mel doesn't like a lot of people, so when Mel likes someone, her whole face.
I'll be I don't know what it is, but I get very clear about, you know what, that's my person. That's how, that personality, that thing, whatever that is, I can be compatible with that and not in those any other kind of way. It's just like, I could work with that.
It's so interesting too because our time in DC was mostly based with us like being a really big part of the queer community out there, and then we both ended up like, I don't want to say going back to men because that sounds so.
It's never back.
Yeah, it's never back because when you're pansexual or bisexual, you've always have the option. It's just where life takes you.
That's what it is.
Did you get any? Because I remember when you and Jeff were talking about this. We're going to talk about it in a second. When we went to Wine Country, guys. So the week started with, on her birthday, we had a new moon ceremony. But everybody thought it was my birthday party. So imagine that people are coming over to have like group therapy at a new moon ceremony on what they think is my birthday party, but it's actually her birthday. It was confusing. Jonica was like, why are we here now?
And then I was throwing more loops because every time I was just whispering, it's my birthday in real life. It's okay.
Which I wish you had it because it kept confusing things.
Everything.
I was like, y'all.
That's what made it fun.
No, I don't like confusion. Okay, so for those who know that we like astrology, Mel is an Aries, okay? And she's a mildly evolved Aries, which means the chaos, the love of chaos.
The Taurus involved me. I think I'm
it's just, you like a little bit of chaos. Now, being in that room, how did it feel during when we were doing the readings? We're not going to share we're sharing the readings because that was a safe space. But during one part of the new moon ceremony, we did some readings. And I think there were some people in the room who didn't know that I did readings. And I made a big disclaimer. Free readings are not something a birthright. You don't get to call me and say, I'm coming to your house for a free reading or when can I get a free reading? If I don't offer, then the answer is no. Because it's how I pay my bills. So you're literally asking me, hey, can I take $120 out of your purse? You know what I mean? So I made a big announcement. Hey, guys, I rarely do this. I only do when I'm in the mood. Don't ask for this again unless I offer it. But we're going to do some quick readings. And then we started reading people around the room. How was that like for you watching that? And I'm asking you because you watched me do this in like 3 different states now.
Absolutely. And over 2 or 3 different eras, okay? 2 or 3 different levels of comfort in life, right? And I think it's always the same. It's just kind of like... it's back to that before the makeover. I know what's there. It's just about what space that you're in, and I'm not surprised at the reactions.
What were the reactions? Because I black out a little bit.
There's that. What I saw was gratitude. I saw like being open and receptive. It wasn't like a resistance.
Right.
Little tweaks of resistance, but it was minor. But and just the gratitude of and when I say gratitude, that's even it's kind of an ill-fitting word because we also talked about this. It was just like not I'm bad at words, so I'm looking for them. It wasn't gratitude as much as it was just gratefulness that I have this opportunity and this thing, but it's not, it wasn't gratitude that would pour out into the vessel. If that
I don't
makes
understand
sense.
the thing you just said.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Rephrase the entire
I'll try
thing.
it again.
Yeah. I don't know what that was, friend. Take 2. Hit
Take it back. What I saw in the room was, it was enlightened. There you go. It was enlightenment. That's what I was looking for. There was people, they received what you were getting and they loved it. It wasn't nothing though they were shooting back out.
Guys, what you just saw in action was Mel has a tendency to start a sentence and then because she knows I'm the wordy one, will wait for me to finish it. And I realize how enabling that is of me because you said you're not good at words, but when I shut the hell up, You figured it out, right?
I found the word.
Yeah, part of having like friends that love you and want to grow you is like, no, friend, finish your own sentence. It's what and what now? And I do think enlightenment is an interesting word because I often fear, actually, maybe is fear the right word? No, it is the right word. I often fear that there's a line between when you're doing any kind of help or service, where it's counseling, tarot readings, whatever your gift is that's of service, there's a line where it goes from being helpful to being enabling. And I find myself constantly these days discerning how much information to give my clients versus how much is left for them to figure out for themselves. And so that room was an interesting space to be in because I could tell some people wanted more. And I was like, no, I want you to make your own decisions unless you're paying me as a client, then I have to give you an answer. And did you think anybody resisted what they heard? Don't name any names, but...
Yes.
Oh, shit. That's another thing I think is interesting, too. I'm starting to recognize that sometimes when you hear a truth that doesn't make you comfortable, whether it's accurate or not, you're going to resist it. I don't want to say too much on the new moon. The night ended well. We were all high as a kite by the end. Marijuana is legal in California, so complain to your mother. And it was a wonderful night. You ended your birthday on a very witchy note, and the very next day was 420. I need y'all to understand that at my big age, having a new moon ceremony that lasted till 2 a.m., with 10 people in my house exchanging energy, smoking weed and drinking the libations, and then waking up and it's 420, everything inside of me was like, oh man, I'm going to be high for the next week.
We've done this before. That's the part. We've done this
So we started off
before.
420 by doing an episode with a special guest. We'll see who she is later. We did an episode of Humanized. Then we went to the Bob Marley Museum. How did you like the Bob Marley Museum? For those who are in California, the Bob Marley Museum is actually still a thing until the 20th of May, so you still have time to go and check it out after you've heard about our experience.
It was surprisingly cool.
Why were you
I really liked
surprised?
that. Just
Are you not a museum girl?
I am a museum girl.
Okay.
I'm a teacher in DC, so I do like museums
From field
regularly.
trips?
Yeah,
Backpack.
trips, dates, whatever. And sometimes they're underwhelming. And
Yeah.
so for this one, I was just like, okay, let's see. Oh, temporary. What they got going on.
He lived a full, like,
Yeah.
Bob Marley was a legend, but I don't think I fully recognized who he was through the eyes of his family to that exhibit, because I think the Marley family actually donated a lot of artifacts, a lot of personal family pictures. Like, I felt like I was seeing him. I didn't know he loved to play soccer. I didn't know his wife, Rita, was born in Cuba. Like, there's so many things that I did not know about his family. And what was so amazing to me was, like, seeing all the Marley boys and girls, like, as adults. I'm like, how sad is it that he didn't get to watch them grow up in the physical realm? I'm sure he's on the other side watching and cheering them on. But, like, the fact that his family has been so illustrious and still in music. Look at Skip Marley. You guys know Skip is my favorite Marley, if you're wondering. I don't know if that's a question, but I love Skip Marley. Well, he cute,
We heard
whatever.
that before.
No, we went to the Bob Marley exhibit, and it was dope, and we took lots of pictures. Then we went to my friend Danny's 420 party.
I want to go back to Bob Marley.
No, shout out to Danielle, because
we blacked out.
there was so much weed in her house.
It took us a couple minutes, a couple days later, to try to remember what we were doing that particular afternoon.
Danny had something in the weed called moon rocks. What was it? Moon crystals?
Moon rocks.
Look, I was like, is this cocaine? Like, I was like, I don't do
mooning
cocaine, y'all. Like, I need y'all to know, I only do federally legal drugs, like, you know.
No, we were fine.
Wait, are shrooms legal? Yes.
We were fine.
Shrooms and edibles and marijuana is my line. I am not about that life. I have zero street cred. I smoked marijuana for the first time at 24. Did not make it a habit until I was 30. So I am not the person who is, like, deeply ensconced in drug culture. I learned how to roll my own weed at, like, 35. Like, I went to Catholic school, okay? I only started doing it because it was good for my cramps. So to go to a party where they have elite California strains of weed, even you looked overwhelmed.
Splayed out next to the shuka tree. Okay?
Chuka tree.
Shuka tree.
She means charcuterie, y'all. Please show my friends some grace. Bitch, did you just call charcuterie chuka-tree?
I teach
And
lower elementary.
Yeah, what grades do you teach?
K to 2 is my sweet spot.
K to 2?
Yeah, I've taught up to 5th grade. I've taught up to middle school. I don't tell kids.
Do you know how I was a substitute teacher for a week? I was a sub for a week at a DC public school. Them kids did not know what hit them. What is it called? Not first grade. First term class. Period. First period. Yes. It's been decades since I've been in
She
school,
said
y'all.
first grade,
Okay.
first term.
First period. That feels like something else to me. First period. That they try to haze the substitute, and so I think they try to say something funny about me or how I looked or something to get to me. And I was like, wow, you got a lot of bumps on your face to match the bass in your voice. Now, I recognize that has not evolved, guys, okay? This was years ago. And they were like, ooh, she capped on you. And then, so we started playing the dozens. And once they realized that I was with the shits, they were like, oh, Miss Blue is, okay, she cool.
Sometimes you got to speak to them in their language.
Sometimes the kids will haze you. And I remember that by the end of the week, thinking two things. Number one, that was so fulfilling. Number two, I will never do this again, right? I will never, ever teach anybody formally for long term that is not an American adult. Like, what's the age for adults? 18 in America? Some countries is like 14.
It's a little weird.
I need you to be 18 and up, right? Because there was so much that happened, and I was like, number one, I don't want to be responsible for shaping your mind like this. Although all teachers shape your mind no matter what age you are. And number two, minors are very mean.
They're mean, but they're also just a reflection of their environment. I'm under the philosophy that even up to about 13, your brain is mushy to the point where you have a hard time even planning for malice.
Oh, baby, that's 26.
There you go.
Your brain is mushy until you're 26, yeah.
So with that, it's like the bad kids, they're not bad. They've learned their environment.
Oh no, I don't believe in good and bad kids. I think there's kids with opportunities and resources and language for what they're going through, and kids who don't have the language and who lash out of frustration and feeling disenfranchised. So for me, it's not good and bad kids. It's more so during that time you're hormonal and you're mean.
Sometimes
I mean, once a month when I'm on my cycle, like
I hear that, but
they're
sometimes
smelling themselves.
It's back to the process. It's back to reaction. It's like when I ask for a cookie with my polite words and I say please, it doesn't work. But when I throw a glass against the wall, I get a cookie. Yeah, and so I'm gonna just work like that.
Reinforcing bad behavior. Exactly. And Mel works with, what do you call it? Differently abled? What's the pretty way of putting it? I don't want to get canceled.
Neurodivergent.
Oh, neurodivergent.
Yeah,
okay,
that's what it is.
Here's the irony: Mel works with neurodivergent kids and had a neurodivergent roommate and didn't call it.
What's funny is I felt it, but I think it's rude to do that to adults.
No,
sometimes.
Let me tell you what happened. I was the same job, because revisionist historians are not going to be a thing here. The same job where I was sitting there working for $15-20 an hour at the front desk editing my footage while I was buzzing people in. That same job, I also had a schoolhouse at the bottom floor. And one of the teachers walked up to me after watching me for a couple of days, and she was like, "Are you autistic?" And I was like, "Excuse me, bitch."
What you see?
My name is Blue. What's yours? What the fuck? How do you just roll up on somebody and say, "Are you autistic?"
I was just quietly using prompting in ABA.
And I was like, "Nah, why?" And she was like, "No, because I've been watching the way that you engage with people."
There you go.
And I had just masterfully de-escalated something. And back then, to me, being autistic was a stigma. So I was like, you just watched me be masterful and be completely immune to manipulation during the situation. And your answer isn't, oh, wow, she's so emotionally intelligent, she's autistic. I was like, how the fuck did we get here? And she was like, no, I didn't mean to offend you. It's just that you seem like the best case scenario, what I hope for my kids. Then Mel came to pick me up at 2 a.m. Said, Mel, the principal at the school, at the building I work at, asked me if I was autistic. And you were like, oh, shit, that would explain a lot.
I was like, damn, she said it.
You were like, oh, that would explain a lot. Y'all, it would be 7 years before I would get tested.
Fast forward. Here we are.
I was like, y'all funny. Y'all got me fucked up.
When she called me and told me, she was like, yeah, no, just final word. I was like, girl, I'm not surprised. She's giving me the rundown of this is why, this is the markers. Yeah, I see.
What's funny is once you know the markers of neurodivergence, you start to realize how underdiagnosed the Black and brown communities are.
Everybody.
I'm not going to say everybody, but
girl,
if you're watching this, you or somebody, one of your play cousins is probably neurodivergent. And I think I looked up the list. It was being gifted actually is a form of neurodivergent. What Americans, and I keep saying Americans, our following is bigger than that. What the average person calls, oh, she's gifted, is often nipping at the heels of something neurodivergent. Being autistic obviously is neurodivergent, OCD, ADD, dyslexia. There are so many things that fit into the neurodivergent pile of like, your brain is just wired different, right?
Absolutely.
But because a lot of us tend to be really smart and have genius IQs, or be really great artists, or be very eccentric and really good at being charming, like all those things that are seen as superpowers, and I've been told to be careful calling it a superpower because it's really, really demeaning to those who are not high functioning. So I'm working on that. But all the things that are applauded for neurodivergent people who are high functioning are just people not having the language about why so-and-so is different.
Right.
So when I would I came out as neurodivergent to everybody when I got diagnosed. Everybody was like, oh, I just thought you were colorful. I just thought you were different. I was like, I am different.
But here's the thing, even the definition of neurodivergence, like you have to have the standard of what is divergent from. And
yeah,
so
being
even,
neurotypical, yeah.
Yeah, and neurotypical even shifts from space to culture to city to
absolutely
to schools. So
and I'm happy you brought up the cultural competency part because
absolutely.
I do think because of how black and brown children are seen, that's probably why it's the hardest for them to be properly diagnosed and loved up on with the same care that their white counterparts are. What have you learned from being someone who is dealing with not the high functioning, right? Like, I'm actually happy you're here because aside from this being a birthday recap, I love the fact that now that I've come out as autistic, a lot of people are stunned, and you could see them forcing themselves to like, oh, I thought that meant retarded. You know what I mean? Like, I can see them struggling, and I use that word just for the example, guys. I don't use that word in real life, but they're struggling with, well, this is what I think of autistic people, but I always thought Blue was really smart, so how do I reconcile this? And I did that intentionally to destigmatize, use my platform for that reason.
Right.
However, I was told I could not use the term Asperger's, and I respect it because something along the lines of, and someone's going to do the research. I didn't research this, so I'm putting that disclaimer. But it's something along the lines of back in the days, the Nazis would use Asperger's as a way to be like, oh, those are the autistic people that we don't have to kill off because we can still use them. They're high functioning. Wow. And so Asperger's was actually used of, oh, you're an autistic person that we don't have to throw away.
Right.
And so we don't say Asperger's anymore because of the nasty history that is around that.
Functioning or something.
So I just say high functioning autistic, but you're somebody who works with the kids who are not necessarily high functioning. And I want them to get space too, right? Like, I don't want to just be the shiny, gifted unicorns getting the space. What do you see in black and brown communities where you work about people who have low functioning or lower functioning autistic kids?
There's a major disconnect between what they think their child should be doing and what their child can do. So I do spend a lot of time like helping, especially parents of younger children. I guess the label in my quiet brain are younger parents, but if you're 40 years old with a 3-year-old, you only have 3 years of experience with this. Yeah. And so I do a lot of explaining to them like, hey, the same way you learned to ride a bike or tie your shoes, that was your way. Your child can still do this. It's just way different. Your child is nonverbal, doesn't mean they can't communicate. Your child is not filling out math worksheets. That does not mean they're not able to do calculus.
Yeah.
So
is there shame?
Absolutely.
Because I think black and brown parents, back in the day, the joke was if you were special needs and you were a person from of color, you'd be in the basement.
And they still are. Oh. There's some spaces where they still are. And then I think the biggest kind of outlet of that space is into special education, is the early identification. I've seen some kids that I feel like are over-labeled or over-identified just for the purpose of mom being able to get services, and I say mom, all of them, services, placements, or whatever stacked up on them. If I can get someone to be convinced my child has a speech delay, I might win 4 more extra hours a week of dropping them off somewhere.
Oh, yikes.
I've had parents tell me I feel so ashamed or sad or upset or whatever, guilty for bringing my child to school every day just because of the time we have, just because of what we go through.
Like, it's so hard at home, they feel guilty giving them to you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing a disservice or just being mean to somebody else by just throwing it. Sometimes I feel so guilty that I'm ready to drop them off at 7:30.
How do you minister to those parents? Out of the shame, or do you not because it's not your place?
I think I try to give them resources. It's not my place. And once upon a time, I would try to make it my place. Yeah. But then I had to learn, like, okay, I'm the teacher. I'm not the social worker and the psychologist and the principal and everybody else.
They're different roles for a reason, yes.
All the different roles. So I know when to send the email, right, to somebody else. But what I will say is I think just painting different pictures or giving different resources to say, hey, I know you don't feel like you can take your child out to play on the weekends, or you're scared to go to this park for whatever reason. Here's the thing you can do. Here's something we do in class. Here's what I want to do with your child.
So you basically rehumanize their kids.
That's really what it is.
So they don't see their kids as a problem and back to being a child. You know what's so interesting? As you're talking about the parents and how they internalize shame, my mother she was never ashamed of me, but she always knew I was different. She always knew that I had too much language. She was like, we need to teach you less words. Like you got too much language. Yeah, so she always knew that I was different, I had a lot of language, and that I was incorruptible. Like if something was wrong, I don't give a fuck who's in the room. If it's wrong, I'm like, why are we doing that? That's wrong.
Why is that math like this?
Yeah, and it wasn't like personal wrong. It was like black and white wrong. Like, hey, that's really mean. Why are you being mean? And she knew I had a pure heart, but she was like, oh man, I'm concerned for you. And I was like, why? Like, I'm chilling. And I think that she was like, when I got older, she told me there's a courage that you have that I envy, right? So I later realized that I was being courageous in a way that she had never allowed herself to be. And so she was worried that I would be judged as harshly as she would be judged and internalize that. Child, I didn't even care what those people thought. And I think a lot of times parents try to find the most gentle way because they're scared that their child is gonna meet somebody mean who's gonna break their heart. I know there's some shame there because nobody wants a child who's special needs a lot of times because they feel like, oh, people don't think something's wrong with me and I didn't have enough, zinc or something in my diet when I was pregnant. Right. And I'm just like, but that child still needs to be loved and that child is here now and you kind of have to deal with that.
It's still very present.
Would you ever adopt a child?
I would.
Really?
I really would.
Well, I'm very passionate about adoption. And we're going to be doing an episode coming up with someone who was adopted and runs an organization that works around adoption. And what kind of child would you want to adopt? Would you be a baby? Because I'm very passionate about older kids being adopted.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty flexible in that, and that's just me personally. I will say shout out to the people that are just choosing not to take on any more trials because it is a thing. And so, but for me, I do feel like I'm specially prepared or specially like. It's in alignment with my purpose.
Wait. I was talking about adoption. But it sounds like you're talking about adopting a special needs child.
Oh yeah, I mean that's when.
So you're open to that as well.
I'm open to all of that. Yeah.
Who better than you?
Different age. Especially when you talk about older kids, it's like they're not new. They have a whole book of experiences and backgrounds to come with you. Even if they're the nicest straight A student, they're gonna come with something.
Well, if you're not with your birth family, there's a story there's pain there
all the time.
Well, speaking about family that is chosen and not birth family. It felt so good to have you here this week because it felt like someone who knew me with zero pretense being there for the week. And it was so interesting because for so long I've struggled to discern who is my friend because they sincerely care about me versus who thinks I'm valuable.
I was going to say that earlier as far as... like, again, the comfort I have in you and you knowing me enough to enable me when you're not on your life. So, but it made me wonder is, like, your neurodivergence, for me, in my opinion, kind of always showed up in your consistency with how you engage with people.
Explain that.
We've had all these conversations randomly about people romantically or just in friendships or in passing that I'm like, girl, you ain't see that stupid shit, girl, she tried you. Or you'll hear it later, like, yeah, she's looking at you like this, and you were very kind to her to move her on her way, but I know in her background this is what she was going through, and you don't see that at all.
I don't have nasty intentions, and you know how they always say you see the world as you are, not as it is? Because I don't have nasty intentions, I don't walk around looking for nasty intentions, and you used to be the friend in the background like, nah, she on some funny shit.
Yeah, she's trying it. I'm gonna look at I'll be right here. Go ahead, have to talk with her. I'll be right here. So,
were you feeling protective this week, meeting so many of my... Because Mel met like 30 of my new friends this week.
It makes me wonder the difference between the people that are your friend because of the realm of comfort you give. That space of enabling, whether consciously or subconsciously, whatever.
I prefer nurturing to enabling.
I hear that you are nurturing, and I don't think you should stop or even take that away.
I will say enabling, it was the old me, but because you haven't lived in the same state as me for 5 years, just for out of respect for my growth, I don't enable anymore.
There you go.
But I used to. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, but I'm nurturing now, and it will stop if you show your ass. Like we don't.
Well,
yeah, I don't do the thing that you're very accurately pointing out. But have you been in a space now where you're like, oh, she's finally figured out how to make friends that do not have ulterior motives, or are you still worried about me?
A little bit. It's
a little bit of what? I get two options.
I'm a little bit of worried, but not as like much as probably before, especially when you first moved out here. When you first moved out here, I was like, oh my God, the wolves. They're gonna
I was everybody's friend when I moved to LA, and I learned very quickly that was a bad idea.
I was like, all they need to do is spend one afternoon at the house, and it's a wrap. one conversation, somebody's going to try to whatever, but not so much just because of the people I've met here so far, just the people that you showed me that are around you. And like you said, your growth and your discernment of knowing who was what and why and how.
Wanting to believe the best in people is probably my favorite and least favorite thing about me. Because I be rooting for folks so hard.
You do.
I root for people so hard. I'm like, oh shit, she wasn't rooting for herself.
Hard and long, girl.
Let me mind my. You know what's so interesting too? I think about all the heartbreaks that you watch me go through, and I realize that sometimes watching a friend go through a heartbreak, especially if it's a very courageous friend, is actually harder than me going through the heartbreak. Because for me, it's like, oh man, that hurt. Oh wow, that was really cruel. That's soul crushing. All right, give me about 30 days to weep, and then I'll be back, and then I'll come back like, ooh, I'm looking for somebody else to love. Like, when I get my heart broken, I deal with it and I keep it moving, right? But it wasn't until I talked to my mom, my mother was like, you're so courageous that sometimes as somebody who loves you, it really is like watching a baby cross the freeway.
Yeah.
Because the baby's like, yay, I'm gonna make it. You're like, you might get hit by a semi-truck. And so I think having a friend who's been there for the sometimes
it's that same feeling. It's like, oh yeah, now let me call out of work. I need to figure it out. We need to go cover her because something's wrong. Go pour the water. I'm gonna order the groceries. We'll sit here in the doorway.
You know what's so funny? This is the 50th episode of Humanized, guys. Yay, it's a milestone. It's episode 50. Clap, bitch.
I'm sorry.
She was so stunned. It's the 50th episode of Humanized, which was supposed to be a once-in-a-while show that's now become weekly. And the milestone of it being the 50th episode is so interesting to me because I'm having a friend who can humanize me in a way that I can't even humanize myself. Because you don't know what you look like from the outside. And so it's so wild because when we go out, you're like security for me. I've seen you.
I don't mean it.
You're
it
like somebody's gonna walk up to you and try to have a moment with you, and you're gonna be too nice and talk to them for too long, and I'm gonna have to pull you away. And it's crazy because when we got to after we recovered from 420, the very next morning we woke up to go to wine country, and we had rented a house for wine country. And Bridget couldn't make it because she had an amazing opportunity singing the national anthem at the Knicks game, and they won. So if anybody from the Knicks is watching this,
shout out to you.
She's your lucky charm because you had my girl on your sing for you, and y'all won.
Keep that in consideration.
I'm not gonna read off stats, but if it's feeling lucky for me. So Bridget couldn't make it, and suddenly I was like, oh, we have an extra room. That extra room turned into us inviting like 3 or 4 more people. We show up to the house, y'all. I accidentally rented out a mini mansion. This is the second year in a row that I've accidentally rented out. I don't know if my eyes are bigger than my wallet or what. I like opulence on birthdays.
We were looking for each other.
We each had our own wing. It was 7 people in the house, and we would constantly lose each other. 7 people.
Everybody's fully conscious doing an activity.
Doing full activities with music on.
Nobody.
Can't find each other. We gave Richard and Monique, who was on the show previously, so was Richard actually. They had the whole top wing because they're married. We figured, why not? You were sharing a wing with Lulu. And LaRon, for those who remember the episode where Lulu said that she started dating her homeboy at 17 years, we finally got to meet the homeboy and fucking loved him.
He's great.
He's so good.
He's great.
Like, he's so good that I think her watching us love on him. She looked at him during dinner one night and was like,
oh, she was so
why'd you wait so long for us to get together? You could have saved me all these knuckleheads.
There's so many times I was like, your man is so good. Girl, shout out to your man.
Shout out to LaRon. Like, seriously, we might have to have him and Lulu on for like a love episode or something. And then Jeff was there, Chef Jeff, who we love. I think he's still the most attending ass guest I've ever had on the show. Jeff was on the show like 6 times.
Lord.
And Bridget was supposed to be there, but she couldn't make it because of the Knicks thing. So we all dropped to wine country, and the first night, it was so fun because for me, I know this sounds so nerdy. I've had really expensive birthdays. I've traveled the world. I've done all types of extravagant, Instagram-ready things. Being in a pajama with 6 friends who I feel safe with in a big old fancy house.
Playing drinking games and
eating Wingstop and watching the game together. For me, that was probably my best birthday yet, and it probably was the least amount of effort I ever put into a birthday.
It was great.
Yeah, it was wild. Like, what makes you happy? Because I'm realizing the older I get, emotional safety and fellowship means a lot more to me than a look.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you just answered my question with your question.
Yeah.
It's really that. It's emotional safety. It's being with the people that you know that actually anywhere will have a good time, but we were blessed. So this is us loving each other and our blessings.
And just having a good time like big little kids. Yeah. There were so many couples. The fact that Richie and Monique have been together for 17 years and LaRon and Lulu have known each other for 18 years. What did it feel like? I have some thoughts. Let's kiki real quick. What did it feel like being around so many couples of people who had known each other for a long time?
I don't know, comfortable. It was
comfortable.
That word.
Okay, fine.
Comfortable.
Let's drink some more of the kombucha because we started making up words.
The alcohol is creeping back.
How does it feel? Comfortable. It was so comfortable. And bitch, you said it with strong eye contact.
Tried it. Go for it.
Shout out to the Aries in the world, because the Aries can be wrong as shit and they'll still say it with their full chest.
And that's fine.
I kind of love that about you, girl. Why are you looking confrontational?
I'm just. That's what it is.
Y'all can tell that I'm talking to a real friend and not a regular guest, because. It was
Take
three. You were very comfortable.
I was very comfortable. It was fun.
I was inspired. I was like, wait, I can be my regular self and show my full ass, and there's a human being in this world who will be okay with me not setting myself on fire to keep them warm. We always talk about that. Do not set yourself on fire to keep somebody warm. And you know what I loved? How attentive the men were.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, there's something about that security that they had in each other, that when the women wanted to walk off and kiki, like when we're twerking in our bathing suits over here, or when the men are opening doors and clearing things for us or whatever, there wasn't even a moment.
Yeah.
There wasn't a pulse or a feeling of like, what are we doing? And we were just all sharing space together, and it was comfortable. It was great.
Yeah, sharing a house for 2 days with couples that have been together for a long time and still really like each other taught me that gender roles, the thing that we argue about so much on social media, is a non-conversation if your man really likes you.
How about that?
If a man really likes you, and if a woman really likes you, let's be honest.
That's it.
Suddenly making you a plate or washing the dishes or whatever is not a big fucking deal. You're not arguing, well, I did it like that's not a thing.
Right.
I think a lot of couples fall out of like with each other.
Yeah.
And the two things that Lulu and LaRon and Monique and Richard had in common was they were friends first. Sometimes those cliches, they're cliches for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I'm realizing that I probably will not get into another relationship anytime soon unless it's somebody that I can be friends with first and enjoy as a friend, and not just when we're doing nasty things or planning vacations together.
You do have to like each other.
Even when I don't love you. I need to love you, but I also need to really like you.
Yeah. How about I need to respect you even if I don't like you and feel like you deserve that.
At that point, I need to break up, friend.
I mean,
if you talk about I respect you but I don't like you, that might be the sign.
They got them. I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't like, and that was the example of my father. That's why I can say that. There was so many people that respected him, did not want to be trapped alone, did not want to.
We're intimidated. Yeah.
But it's like everything he's doing is right and well for everybody, not just us. It's working for us all. So even if you don't like it, play your role.
It's so funny you mentioned your dad, because I think the reason why my friends were so attentive, even as we're sitting here, people are texting me, hey, Blue, you're good? Happy birthday. Was everything good? I was like, why is everybody being so concerned? And then it took me a second to be like, oh, your mother spent 2 weeks in the hospital. Thank God she's out. And then your uncle died. And I think I had told myself, I'm going to Boston tomorrow after we tape this to help my family with the grieving process, help my mother with her health, and be the grown-up. But I think that's why I wanted a week of play. I wanted 1 week where I'm not thinking about planning a funeral or my mother's hospital fees or anything, and I'm just frolicking with my friends.
It is so necessary.
Yeah.
When I went through that with my dad, that was one of the things I got. I got a luxury hotel room, jacuzzi tub, ordered all the fun things that I wanted to.
Yeah.
It's like it was so necessary in that space.
Sometimes you need a beat in the middle of a crisis to fill you back up.
Absolutely.
Before you start taking care of everybody else. And which, funny enough, it brings me to, speaking of filling cups, day one was game night and kikiing. Day two was wine country.
The cups, though. Come on, man.
We
had so many of them.
So much wine.
Shout out to the bartenders that forgot, sommeliers that forgot to punch and sign cards. It's cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you where we went because we want to get anybody fired.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
But you're supposed to get 6 tastings per. This one lady, she was kikiing with us so hard. She was pouring wine and not punching anything.
The other dude, I think he just liked the way we bat our eyelashes.
Yeah, we got a lot of free alcohol and that we didn't pay for. And funny enough, LaRon, who's like 6'4", this lady walked up to him because he was cute and was like, hey, you can have my card.
While he was next to his woman.
While he was next to Lulu.
And she was like, go ahead, boo, thank you. Go ahead.
And luckily,
Get some more.
luckily for me, LaRon doesn't drink, so he, as the birthday girl, he gave me his card.
It worked out.
It was just wild. I was like, how do you run up on? How would you act if you were in wine country with your man, and a woman walked up to flirt and give him free gifts?
I say thank you. I'm so ready for that. There'll be sometimes I be wanting to send him out to the wolves.
So you
Why not?
like the idea of pimping out your
I
man
am
and come
okay
back with some
that.
goodies?
Please. One time I was out and somebody bought me a drink and I told him, my man says thank you. I'm going to let him know that his woman is out in a community, in a space where there's still good men that will take care of all of us. So shout
And what
out
did
to
he
you.
say?
He was just stunned and signed his credit card
He
slip
was
and
like,
walked
all right,
away.
girl, that's a lot of information. You be blessed.
Yeah, because that's all I want from you, sir. But, thank you.
There was one part of the wine weekend where I was just like, there's so much alcohol. I never want to drink alcohol again. I don't know if that's the right reaction. But to be fair, think about this, right? Mel got here on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I took her to Santa Monica, and we were eating oysters and drinking espresso martinis and getting drunk by the beach.
We were drunk like 6 hours after I got the plane.
Yeah, Mel landed like 3, and by 9, we were already like drunk in the back of an Uber.
And then when we did New Moon, it was like.
And then the New Moon ceremony, we were drinking, and we were, doing ceremonies and shit, having psychic awakenings and whatnot. And then 420, help, just send help. And then game night on Friday. So by the time we actually got to wine country on Saturday,
we were still.
My liver was mad at me. I was pickled at that point.
Sweating alcohol.
Wow, that's a lot, friend.
No, I felt it. Like we were just moving.
Yeah, at one point I was like, yo, this is so fun. I need some Gatorade. So we left. We had to leave because they closed at 6. We would have stayed there longer.
I would have.
Yeah, we went to go eat. That helped a lot. And there was... My stomach was like, oh, food. She remembers that we need food and not just alcohol. We went to eat, and there was one part where everybody was getting in the car, and me, you, and Jeffrey was sitting by a fountain, and I closed my eyes, and I threw a coin to make a wish in the fountain. And then when I opened my eyes, I was like, my wish is actually already coming true in real time. Because, part of my wish is just the emotional safety and the bandwidth to do what I'm here to do. Yeah. Right? Like, if you have a strong sense of purpose, you need a community. For anybody who's listening to this who has a strong sense of purpose, I need you to know, even if your purpose is something singular, like I'm a writer, that's a very solitude, like there's a lot of solitude baked into writing. No matter what your purpose is, you still need a community to fill you back up.
Absolutely.
And the funny thing is, after we finished wine weekend, which was so fun, that Sunday, we woke up dumb early, dropped Jeff off. Mind you, shout out to the bubble baths that I had at that house. The beautiful thing about renting out a mini mansion is that you have a deep jacuzzi tub that you can bathe in every day. I have taken so many baths in the past 72 hours.
Changed your life.
I love my house, but I need to manifest that tub.
Exactly.
Somebody needs to rent out a house where people can just come in and take bubble baths. Airbnb bubble. Is that a business idea? I would say take it out because somebody's going to steal it, but that's fine.
I got it.
Airbnb bubble. I like that.
I talk to the people.
Fun fact, one of the co-founders of Airbnb went to high school with me. Shout out to you, Nate. I tried to interview him one time. Like, yo, tell him that I'm a reporter, but like, I went to high school with him. They were like, we know what this is about. You're from a black publication. We're good. Because this is when Airbnb was having like problems about people being racist. So they're like, yeah, your black classmate wanted to interview us. We know exactly where this is going. But after we finished, letting me have my bubble baths and wine country, all that, we dropped Jeff off back in downtown LA and we went to something called the U Retreat, which was done by Black Love. Shout out to Cody and everybody over at Tommy and everybody over at Black Love. We love them so much. But the U Retreat was a women's retreat. And I had said, Mel, they only sent me one invite. I can ask if you want to come as a +1, but I know that I'm going to have you running the streets. Do you want Sunday to work? Because you're a teacher and I know you have mad work. And what did you say, Mel?
Let's go ahead. Let's just go. I'll work later.
See, I was just, let the record show. I don't want people like, oh my God, Blue ran Mel ragged. No. I tried to give you Sunday, friend.
You did, and I tried, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh, I guess there'll just be other hours to remake up.
Cody's team was really nice about giving me a +1. So we go to the event. It was beautiful.
It was awesome.
It was so beautiful. And because I live in LA, I think I am numb to celebrated public figures being in the room with me. But there was one point where I looked at your phone and I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm sending pictures to my brother and my mom and they tell me who's who and what's what. And I was like, oh, right. LA jades you. Like, you're so used to constantly seeing actors and people doing their thing. Like, I don't even think I register it anymore. So I kind of love that you were there because I got to see it through the eyes of somebody who's not been desensitized. What was your favorite takeaway from and don't mention the one that you mentioned when we got to the car, because that's the one we're going to double click on in a second. Aside from the thing that you mentioned when we got in the car, which was stunning to me, What was your other biggest takeaway? Mel started dropping bombs. I did not realize how much this week was going to change you, friend.
Man.
Imagine how the 4 years has changed me.
Listen.
Don't buy it, because what was your biggest takeaway?
The biggest takeaway was, look, without mentioning what's in the car, is it was affirming. That's all it was. It was the biggest takeaway was knowing.
Enough.
Yeah, I already know. I already know what feels good. You know when it doesn't feel good. You know where you're supposed to be in. I always say that if I pull up to a place and I can get parking right in front, then Jesus wants me there. Like we're supposed to be here. Everything's fine.
Not Jesus in the valet area.
Really,
Okay.
Absolutely.
I receive it. Let him use you.
Absolutely. I pulled up. I saw valet. I was like, oh, okay. Well, this will be easy.
It's so I love the gem too. Somebody shared about how we talk about is the cup half empty, half full. And someone was like, well, you know, sometimes you have to think about it differently as what's in the cup is for me and what comes out the cup is for you.
That was big.
What's in the cup is for me.
It's mine.
And what comes out of the cup is for you.
And it makes you really intentional about what you're putting in the cup.
Yeah, because that's for me.
Yeah.
And I get to choose what comes out for you.
I get to...
Child, sometimes it'd be the simplest word that hits you between the eyes.
And it's like, you can't act like you didn't know that. You knew that.
Yeah.
Somewhere. This isn't new information, but
so we're sitting here, we're
new.
watching all these amazing actors and singers and like titans of industry share space. Everybody, and Mel's like, oh my God, everybody's so friendly. Which is, by the way, people don't hear about LA enough, but we were in a room full of black women in the industry who knows what it's like to feel isolated. And I think that's what's so brilliant about Cody doing the retreat in that way, is because she had people who knew what was at stake to make each other feel loved upon.
Yeah.
And you know, black women like to show up for each other in that way.
Yeah.
And then so there was one moment, we had joked earlier that Mel knows to be my security and not leave me alone, because I'll accidentally end up in a very intimate and inappropriate conversation with somebody. I got off my phone because I was texting somebody, and then I was like, all right, Mel, this is lunch break. I'm going to go get us some food and be right back. I go to the food truck line and end up in a 20-minute conversation that results in somebody crying and thanking me, like just sobbing.
And she comes back with half the food. She doesn't come back with all the food. She comes back with half the food. Like, okay, I don't know. I'm whirlwind.
But it turned into like a really cathartic moment for that young lady. I feel like God put me in that food line just to talk to her. And the thing that broke my heart was, the thing that moved her to tears is something that me and my friends talk about every day and don't even take for granted.
Yeah.
I think so many of us don't realize, even with the show, how many people don't have people to have good conversation with.
Yeah.
Or just, like, I'm using the word safety. I've used the word safety like 20 times in this episode. The concept of having friends who feel safe enough for you to be completely naked with emotionally. There are folks who have never experienced that at their big ages. And I think we sometimes take for granted that the affirmation and love that we give to each other is not the norm, unfortunately.
It's not the norm.
Not because people don't have good hearts. I don't want people to be like, oh, you're trying to say that nobody has a good heart? No. A lot of people just don't have the bandwidth or have not given themselves permission to be vulnerable with each other. Like, I don't want to bother you, so I'm going to give you this nice facade of how I'm doing and saying I'm fine, even though I just cried in the bathroom before I left.
Yeah. You said the term emotionally lazy this week, and it was one of the things I was like, let me really make sure I understand what this is.
Yeah.
And I think especially just how we show up for each other.
Yeah.
If you care about something, like there's nothing you would describe as lazy when how you engage with it, you know. And so when you're,
let's unpack that, right? So emotional lazy, that's a buzzword. You brought it up, friend. Let's unpack
Let's do it.
Emotionally unlazy means that you do what you technically have to do or what you're asked to do without any surplus or added compassion that is outside of those restrictions. So if I ask you to do something, you'll do it for me. If I tell you something bothers me, you'll be like, oh, that bothers me. But you're not proactively taking the initiative to make me feel safe outside of me doing the heavy lifting of telling you how. And so an emotional lazy person on paper is doing everything right that they've been told, but isn't going the extra mile or inconveniencing themselves to do what somebody who actually thought about it for half a beat would intuit to do for you.
like, growth takes like breaking and movement and change, and you gotta reach, you gotta grow, you gotta move for it.
But you have to call something by its name before you can overcome it.
Absolutely.
You cannot learn from a mistake that you refuse to admit that you've made. And so a lot of folks, when I call them emotionally lazy, they get mad at me. I was like, but if you can't admit that you're emotionally lazy, I can't believe anything that comes after that, because you won't even call it by its name. What are you working towards? If you're not admitting that you don't always step up the way that you could, if you're not admitting that you sometimes are more clever than compassionate, let's talk about that for a second.
And what is your goal?
I technically gave you what you asked me for. If you're using technicalities like a fuck boy, that's emotional laziness, right? Because we can play, I can play the technicality game too, right?
They got them.
Emotional laziness, like when you're working away from that, you say, you know what? I don't have to do this for her, but I want to do this for her.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this, so I'll figure it out. This has never been asked of me, but you matter enough for me to like shift that narrative.
Try.
Yeah. And not trying because you're pushing me, but try because I'm excited to show up better for you and myself.
It's movement. I don't think it's too much of a workout. It is
a workout, though. I'm not going to hold you.
It's a walk, but sometimes it's not always climbing a mountain. Yes, it is a walk. It's a movement, but I'm not asking you for... These are reasonable requests. Thank you.
Mel, use this. So one of the cheat codes that I've been giving to everybody this week, you guys please buy my book when it comes out. One of the cheat codes from the book that I've been giving everybody is when you are making a request and somebody acts like your request is wild or they have a bad reaction or they get defensive. We try to say, I don't do enough. The way to diffuse it with somebody who actually gives a shit, that caveat matters.
That does.
Is to say, I made a reasonable request.
And then if they have any fucks inside of them to give you, they're going to use it to reason with you.
You can even acknowledge your feelings. You seem very agitated. You might have even been triggered. I want to know what frustrated you.
I understand if my request makes you uncomfortable.
Even in the moment of me being curious and leaning in and asking you why you're frustrated, Mel's like, Blue does this shit to me all the time.
It's like...
I'd be like, Mel, you seem very frustrated. I just made a reasonable request, so what frustrated you?
Sometimes
she'd be like, really, bitch? And her response is, that's fine.
You do it to others, I'd be like, give up. Nah,
yeah, she's like,
there.
abort mission.
Leave them there.
And Blue says that she made a reasonable, because here's the thing, they are reasonable requests. So once I say I made a reasonable request, number one, I didn't say anything about you. So you're not being attacked. Number two, I'm owning that I'm self-advocating within reason. So I just want to know, why are you upset, friend?
Who did it? Where is it coming from?
What did it? I know there's not a who because it's not me. I made a reasonable request. What did it?
Who hurt you?
As my friend, how does it feel when you have a knee-jerk reaction to something because you're triggered, and I hold space for you while still maintaining that I made a reasonable request?
You know when I know how it feels?
Yeah, I really do.
That's fine. That's how it feels.
It's not a feeling, that's a deflection.
It feels okay.
That's a deflection. How does it feel? You haven't sat in the feeling.
I'm sitting in the feeling. It feels like acceptance.
Nice.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. I found a word. You see it? You gotta
look, friend, I am so proud of you. Mel's always saying she's not good at words. And sometimes I'll be like, yeah, friend, that's a rough word. But I love that you're pushing through because when you do give yourself a beat, you find the words. We're shifting that narrative for you.
Look at me taking a walk.
Look, a year from now, you'll be like, I'm great with words. What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah,
I know exactly how I
Never
feel.
been like that. Always communicate. What are you talking about?
And it's so funny. We often talk about what it's like to be emotionally intelligent. We very rarely talk about what it's like to receive an emotionally intelligent person.
You know what?
What has it been like living with an emotional intelligence coach for all those years that we were living with? Because I know that there were so many conversations where you were like, she's technically right, but I'm used to fighting.
Yeah,
like why are we not swinging?
Where was the ignorant blissfulness? Like we've been there. I was like, why don't we just pretend like we don't know this shit and just be toxic? Like, what are you talking about?
The first year of our friendship, Mel was like, why won't you be toxic with me? It's so much fun.
Right? Yeah, I left the dishes. Fuck it.
No, but what has it felt like being with a friend that you know?
Oh my goodness.
You cannot do funny shit with in any capacity.
This is gonna be such a picture, but honest to God, it feels like knowing that you have a superpower and you can't let them know when you go to school. Like you gotta keep the flames inside your hands while you're at work.
For you to receive it?
Yes, to receive it. To be in a space where I go home and there's a bat cave at home of all the things that we know is right and well.
Yeah.
And we used to spend hours. We would be up for weekday, like we did not have a job, up all night unpacking and talking and therapizing for no reason. And it's been so many times I was fighting, like, please God, let me go to my room. I don't want to have this conversation.
Oh, Mel would try to crawl away from me. I was like, no.
I'm tired.
You just tried to emotionally manipulate me into feeling bad because you didn't want to do something that was a reasonable request.
She'd be like, finish this
And
conversation.
I need to know why you did it so I can humanize you and not just make you the villain in this story.
Because I don't want to do this again.
Because I don't want us to have this moment again, so let's work through it. She was like, bitch, okay, I lied because I was tired. Okay? I was tired, so I lied. No,
that was the whole reason. Right. I was being very basic. Okay. Sorry. It was just basic. Sorry, I rubbed off on you. I'm tired.
You know what's so funny though is that like it grew you though. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, but again, going back into civilization.
Oh yeah, going back to regular toxic society after living with me is probably some fuck
that's
shit.
one of them things.
Yeah, because you have the
things.
language now for what you're going through. Like, oh, they're not ready for this.
And I'm like, damn, I'm making all these people cry. Like it was really.
Well, Mel, we have to talk about that.
real.
So please do not weaponize emotional intelligence to make people cry.
Okay, no, that's fair. But still,
So
maybe it's just me.
No, it's not just you. It's not just you. A lot of my clients will confess to me, I took your workshop because I want to learn how to cuss people out. I said, that's not what this is.
Wow. I'm not trying to.
So let's have this moment, y'all, because a lot of y'all got me fucked up.
Let's fix it.
Having the language is not to be weaponized, right? Because when the truth, this is why I want you to take the workshop, friend.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth is a bridge, it's honorable. When the truth is a weapon, and you're claiming that somebody you care about, it's dishonorable. Right? So are you wielding the truth as a bridge, or are you wielding it as a weapon? If you're using the truth to make people shut the fuck up and cry.
See, I'm not. See that I don't be trying to.
Girl, trying it.
I try to build a bridge and then I don't make it to the other side and it leaves a
you get
jagged
emotionally
edge.
lazy a little bit.
Okay.
So you're working through you're working through
that's
it.
That's fine. That's cool. I accept. I'm gonna start saying that.
But here's the thing, that's passive aggressive, so that's not gonna work. I'm like, what do you accept? And then I'm like,
do y'all see? You guys see now?
What do you accept?
Maybe it's the witness. Maybe they can see.
No,
it.
I love it. But
this is
if
what
you
I would
accept,
do.
here's the thing. A lot of times people try to be passive aggressive with the coach. They're like, oh, well, if I just need to play dumb, then this bitch will shut up. I'm like, no, because my intention isn't to get you to surrender. It's for us to understand each other. Yeah. And so if you passive aggressively say that's fine and it's not fine, I still want to connect with you. So I still have more questions, bitch. What's fine, friend? What did you surrender to?
Everything.
Oh, okay.
What?
Unpack the everything. I'm stupid. Hit it.
All the time. Every day after work. Every day after work.
But the wild thing is, though, the beauty of this happening is you taught me a lesson, too. Because I started being strategic about when to let you have a win. I was like, Mel hasn't had a win in a month. Even the best person in the world would hate me right now. This motherfucker deserves a win. So you'd be like, Blue, I did X, Y, Z. I know you're going to be upset, but I was like, no, friend, it's okay. You'd be like, really?
Like, you're at peace with that? I can just go clean it up?
I was like, it's okay, friend. You can clean it up tomorrow. And she's like, okay. And she would run out the house like, let me run out before this bitch shakes her mind.
Before we have any other thoughts.
And then I did the experiment. I've never told you this before. There was a week where there was no lessons. There was no Mr. Miyagi. There was no sharpening steel. I didn't ask shit of you. I let you do whatever the fuck you wanted. I had no feedback, no courageous conversations, nothing. You came knocking on my door like, hey, friend, everything okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I noticed I left the song, so I was like, it's okay. You know, you don't feel no. I was like, no.
We're not going to watch nothing? You don't need nothing?
No, we don't have to argue about this. Like, you're an adult. You live here, too. And she's like, okay. I went downstairs and the entire kitchen had been cleaned. And what I learned from that day, and I've never actually told you this, was once you've ministered to somebody enough about something that's objectively just good for the community, they deep down know what's right to do, but you can sometimes handicap them by making them reliant on you pushing them.
Exactly.
And if you pull away, now they are forced to figure out how to walk and do that and master it on their own. So I love that I finally learned, you taught me when to stop.
Good.
Because I was righteous and good. Child, when I tell you, my tap out game is impeccable.
How about that?
You become exhaustive past a certain point, and you can have it, sis. And anybody who's ever had that moment with me, y'all have Mel to thank. Put the camera on Mel. Anybody who hasn't gotten cussed out in the past 5 years, wave to the camera, Mel.
Why.
Wave to them.
It's me.
See? You can put it back on me now. Anybody who showed their ass and not gotten cussed the fuck out in the last 5 years, and is like, okay, I thought Blue was going to cuss me out.
I'm the callous.
Mel's the one who taught me how to do that, though. You did. Because I was like, do I want to beat her down with the truth? Or do I want my friend to, like, make it her own?
I'm so glad I can contribute that.
You really feel good about that?
I'm so glad I made an impact anywhere it works for me.
Okay, so now we're at Sunday. Sunday, we leave the retreat. We get in the car. Reset. I'm thinking, I'm still hungover. I had a great time. All these shiny people. I love black women. Oh my God, we're so great. Let's go home, I want to sleep. I get in the car, say to Mel, so Mel, what did you get from the retreat? And Mel blurts out, I need to quit my job.
So let me just say, I don't want to quit.
I was like, wait,
Just
what?
certain factors of my job I want to quit.
I said, Mel, wait, how we get here? And she said, no, like, my job as I know it is not working, and I deserve more than what I'm, like, dealing with. And it made me realize how much more I deserve and how I have to be a lot more creative about how I show up and what I show up for. What made you, was there a moment in the retreat that made you realize that you needed to, because I think there was one lady who said, usually when you're exhausted, it's because you need to dream bigger, not smaller.
Yeah, and
That hit me between the eyes.
yeah, no, that was one of mine because I'm very clear. I'm doing work that aligns with the future goal, but
Absolutely.
it's not at all.
It's not big enough.
Not at all. And a lot of my stress and the things that I like worry about with work is all seated in that current lower, level place. And it's like I don't need that. I don't need this kind of grunt and anybody that's in education knows what the grunt work is.
Oh,
like
it's nasty.
Knows where those spaces
And y'all don't
are.
get paid enough.
And
Y'all do not get paid enough for what
that's
you deal
all.
with.
I love it, but no, that's all. We don't.
So you're willing to think bigger. And we actually met somebody at the place who does what Mel does in
It's me,
LA
and, like,
at a higher echelon for much more money and much more free agency. I said, Mel, this is your future.
Same thing.
The minute she told me what I was like, Mel, come over here. I got somebody I want you
We
to
have
meet.
the same certificates. We have the same levels of all that.
And she was fabulous in her caftan and her
Yes, she
sunglasses
was.
and her red lips. She was doing it, honey.
We're a little sangria sipping.
Yeah, so
Shout out to you.
She was like the fabulous version of you when you're older. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'm seeing a glimpse of Mel in the future. You know, somebody mentioned, I don't know if it was at the retreat or maybe it was at the new moon circle or at the wine country. We went to many places,
some
guys.
places.
But like someone mentioned that like you have to see it to know that it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that, like, I've now flown out my cousins. I want my mama to come out here. The reason why I keep on flying my friends and family out here is not just to see me, even though I love y'all. I want y'all to see what I see every day and realize what's possible and how bigger life can be. And then fast forward to the end, because we have to wrap this up, guys. The weekend ended yesterday, Monday, my birthday. My actual birthday. By the time my actual birthday came, everybody was sick of me.
Everybody was tired.
They were like, girl, we've been partying since Tuesday.
I was like, Blue, if you want to sleep for your birthday, I promise I'll make sure you could just sleep as long as you want to. No problem.
Yeah, I needed to get my nails done, but yes, we slept. And Bridget, who had missed everything, literally flew in straight from the studio. She did 2 episodes of, sorry, I have to burp a little bit. She did 2 episodes of her She the Thing Is podcast. And then Cheech literally picked her up from the studio and drove her straight to the airport just so she could land at 8 o'clock Pacific and take us to Nobu as the final grand finale of my birthday. Guys,
Jesus.
I've been wanting to go to Nobu for a long time because I heard it was a good vibe. It was. I heard it was good food. It was.
Amazing food.
I would like to spend more time there. The waves were crashing. The bill was high.
Wait, we already put it on our goal, my brother and I.
To go to Nobu again?
Yeah. It's like,
You got that kind of money for sushi?
we will.
Let me tell you something. I knew Nobu was expensive. I still did not know how expensive because I was like, oh, these are reasonable prices until I realized the prices were like per piece.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
I was like, oh,
okay.
$18 for oysters. That's dumb cheap. No, $18 per oyster.
I had to.
I was like, oh, that's why everything seemed
They were
before.
great.
Yeah, so
were
Bridget
amazing.
took us to Nobu. We had an amazing time. At this point, she was tired, we were tired, so we were all able to like eat like kings, like grown men who are just tired and want to go to bed afterwards. And as we are about to blow out my birthday candle, Bridget looks over my shoulder and says, "Is that Dua Lipa?" And I looked over, I was like, "Oh shit, that's Dua Lipa." And it's so funny how the universe works because, you know, my angel number is 22, and I made a couple of wishes out loud this week. And every time I would make a wish, 22 would appear. Mel was there.
I've seen it.
It got to the
It's
point.
not even a game.
It got to the point where Mel started to get a little uncomfortable. She's like, "This is a little."
Like, can you tell the universe that we're here? We hear you. Like, chill. Like, we got
even
it.
pulled up in front of a store called Blue 22.
Blue, and it was blue.
And I was like,
It
"This
was
is a little on the
painted
nose."
blue.
And I had just been saying, I was like, "Yo, when I come back from Boston and taking care of my family, I want the month of May to be all about me falling back in love with my health journey, right? And whenever I am on a health journey, one of the two people who always end up on the playlist, not because of anything other than like their music just seems like the kind of shit you should be working out to, is Dua Lipa and Lizzo. And so the fact that I had just been thinking like, yo, I'm about to pull out that playlist again, and the person who's all over the playlist was right over my shoulder, I was like, oh shit, that is Dua Lipa. And she walked out. I thought nothing of it. Like, oh, that was cute. 10 minutes later, when we finally leave, she is still standing outside the door with her homegirls. And I was like, oh, she's still out here. That's interesting.
Right.
I'm about to walk past her, and I get a psychic message. And I was like, and I had told everybody, I was like, I do not want to do any readings on my birthday. I'm on vacation. I'm minding my fucking business. If y'all want to book me, I got a link that you could use. I'm about to walk past Dua Lipa and her friends, and I get a message. And I was like, fuck. Do I say, like, you know what? You've been there. So I walked by, and I was like, hey, you guys have really, really amazing friendship energy, and you love each other a lot. And I just think it's beautiful to see. And trust me, I'm a reader, so I read energy. That's all I said. That's the kind of compliment where, whether you believe or not, you say thank you, you walk away. Child, they were like, wait, no, come back. It ended up being about 17 minutes of me and Dua Lipa. I had to tap her like, Dua Lipa, I have to go now. I was like, girl, I gotta go.
No, I was standing guard.
She had, and this is where Mel standing guard. Mel, at one point I was like, where's my purse? Where's my food? My doggy bag? Mel, while I was talking to Dua Lipa and giving her a free reading, like outside of Nobu, gently took all my purse and my bags from me and whisked away.
I kept walking by every 2 minutes, check her pulse. Like, okay, she's still grinning.
She's still good? Did I burning her out?
Okay, right.
And then at one point I was starting to feel like, oh, I'm giving too much. This is not a real reading. I just came out of dinner. I'm tired. And Mel just kind of looked at me and I was like, I have to go. My friend's there. And then they were like, well, take a picture of us so we can remember this moment. This always happens when I try to ignore a celebrity. They end up asking for a picture. Same thing happened when I met Reese Witherspoon. Like, so many times I'd be like, I'm trying to be polite,
I'm
bitch.
gonna leave.
I'm trying to leave. They're like, no, take a picture. I took a picture of them and I was like, screw it. Well, since you guys are here, let me take a picture so when I tell this story, people don't think I'm lying. Because people always think I'm making up these fantastical stories. And I'm about to take a picture. The girl instead presses video and they all stop yelling, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. And I was just like, the person from my workout playlist is screaming happy birthday to me on the last event of my 7-day birthday bonanza. Outside of Nobu. And I was like, yeah, okay, God, I got it.
Chill, like, we're here. We're very sorry, very faithful.
You guys all know me as the woman with mantras. I will give Mel your credit because I do not believe in plagiarizing. The one mantra that Mel has said since the day we met, when I was like, why is this weird girl she's just trying to be my friend? Sometimes when the Lord sends you somebody, you're going to have a reaction like, why do you want to be my friend? I want to thank you for not listening to me, my funky, because I was making faces like, girl, what?
You're like, this was crazy.
You Googled bitches and got me. I'm not bitches. Like, I gave you a lot of heat.
Even when you came in the house, I was like, okay, I'll give you a week. I can tell I'm weirding you out.
Yeah, you were weirding me out, friend. But
I'll be downstairs.
I'm happy that you got a vision for us that I did not have for us. Because you now become, like, I tell everybody you're my little sister now. We're family now. But one of the things Mel said when I was freaking out, because I went from being someone who was making 6 figures, running a production company, had 6 people working for me, and suddenly I was staying in my PA's bedroom with nothing to my name, trying to rebuild from scratch. And Mel came through my door one day and she was like, that's fine. We have everything we need.
We have everything we need.
And for the past, 10, 15 years that we've known each other, that has been your mantra. You see me through breakups, moving across country, LA fuck shit. You've always said, we have everything we need. And I feel like that's the crux of the past week. Oh, I'm going to start crying.
Booby. Because I feel it with you. I know what it is. It's always in a space, even in a worry, we can look around and be grateful. We're safe, we're whole, and we'll find everything that we need.
We're wrapping up. People see me be strong, right? And so the reason why I wanted to humanize myself with somebody who loves me and that I feel like his family is because we do have everything we need, right? And I think a lot of times when you're a brave person, you make peace with the fact that at some point it's not going to work out. At some point I'm going to bust my ass and fall on my face. And there might not be anybody to catch me. And so I just really want to thank you for always being there to catch me.
No, Bloopy, I will be.
Okay. All right, that's the show.
We're fine.
That's the show.
No, but I love you so much, and thank you so much for bringing me here. I'm so proud of you. I'm endlessly proud of you, and you always know, like, I'm always gonna be your advocate. I'm always gonna be your cheerleader because there's nothing you do that is surprising to me.
I'll be surprised as fuck.
There's nothing you do that surprises me. It's like, oh yeah. So even in this space of LA and how people receive you and how people respond to you, there's nothing that shocks me. There's nothing that's unexpected.
Yeah, you guys, if you don't, get you a friend who believes in you, even when you forget who the fuck you are.
How about that?
On that note, Mel, where can they find you, love? Now I'm all stuffed from crying.
Well, where can you find me?
Bridget's waiting for us at the house.
You can find me
with
in
a blunt
DC,
and shit like
at a school somewhere.
No, like what? Do you have a social
Find
media?
me, right? You find me up Northeast. Shout out Northeast.
Mel said, don't find her on social media because she wants you to buy her business.
Yeah, no, Facebook. Melody
Girl,
D.
nobody's just. Oh my God, girl.
That's where you
Facebook.
can find. Okay, no, hit up any of Blue's platforms and say, "Tell Melody I said what's up." And then that's how you get to me.
Mel said, "Stay in your lane." I'm her friend.
I'll be the goon behind her. It's be fine.
And by the way, you guys, I've been telling this story all week, so we might as well end on this note. My favorite story about how Mel does not give a fuck about celebrities.
Oh my goodness.
We're saying this on camera.
That's fine.
My favorite story about how Mel does not care about celebrity. When Mel and I were living with each other for 3 years, I was going through a breakup that was like, it was fucking my spirit. And she was like, you know what? My cousin's in town. She has a show. Come with me. We'll have a good time. So I invite my friend to come with us.
You know how you say it. It's like,
and I almost backed out. Like, I'm not sure. I know Mel's a friend. You know, go to Marcus. You know,
right.
I know Mel's trying to cheer me up.
Open mic night, yeah.
Right. Like, we're going to go see her cousin. But, like, I'm not sure I want to leave the house. And I was like, Mel, I'm not sure. She's like, well, just let me know. Last minute, I decided to go. We pull up to the Verizon Center, was it?
At the time. Now it's Capital One something.
Now it's Capital One something. Mel's cousin, I'm like, Mel, your cousin, all I see is Backstreet Boys and TLC. Who is your cousin? And Mel, with all the bit of stank in her voice, like, who did you say, Mel? Who's your cousin?
T-Boz. I was like, don't you know? I thought we discussed this.
No, we had lived together for 3 years and listened to many TLC songs.
It's mommy's side.
And this bitch never told me that her cousin was T-Boz.
I thought maybe because it was just in my brain, I thought it just like.
That the words "my cousin" equal international girl group superstar T-Boz.
I don't know.
That's the moment that I knew that me and Mel needed to be friends, because I needed to know that no matter what the fuck I did, I could save a child, be president, become the new Oprah, and I would just be her old roommate.
I don't want it. It's fine. I said, no, I'm +1, not staff, not production. I'm +1. Yeah. I'm the driver.
Now more than ever, I appreciate people like you who forget to mention that my cousin.
I am holding the purse back here. That's it.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this show we're hungover, so I don't know if any of this made sense, right?
I think we're fine.
I have ADD, so if it's all over the place, it's an accurate humanizing of me. Mel, I want to thank you for coming again. If you guys want to find me at Bluecentric. If by now, I don't know when this episode's coming out, you might still have a chance to join our own night shift workshop. So if you still want to join it and the link is still working, it is ots20.eventbrite.com. OTS stands for Own Thy Shift, because you have to own your shift so you can own your shit. And I want you guys to always remember that we're all just human beings doing human shit. And as always, please be gentle with yourselves. And go call one of your old friends who knows you and tell them you love them. Okay? Bye, guys.
Bye. Yeah, we did that. That was so cute.